I have a confession to make. I've never played the Torchlight games. Move! We can still save it!
Just let it die, man. Put it out of its misery.
I actually own both Torchlight games and have attempted to start them a few times, but always ended up stopping for one reason or another. I guess it's because they weren't MMOs? I don't know. However, I know some people who played the crap out of them, and they love them. Nearly to the point that they refuse to acknowledge Diablo's existence. Which, looking at that franchise's future, may be a good thing. Heyo! Super timely joke there. So I have a good level of respect for the games, even without having played them. So naturally, I got really excited when Torchlight Frontiers was announced, because it's Torchlight, but an MMO. Now that's something I can get behind. And since they dropped their NDA for their alpha, I can finally talk about the game. And remember, this is an alpha, so things are all subject to change. Oh, that's nice. And you're welcome. So what do I think? Well, I like it. But not to jump too far ahead, let's start from the beginning. In this alpha test, there are currently 2 classes for us to play. The Dusk Mage, a fairly standard magic wielder, and the Forged, a walking old-timey furnace. Naturally, I went with the quirky robot with a cannon for a chest, because duh. You also get to pick your pet, which is pretty important in Torchlight, as they will fight for you, can carry your loot, and even go sell for you. You have a choice between an alpaca, an owl, or a dog. I went with the alpaca because he looked adorably ugly. From here you hit up the Imperial Outpost, picking up kill and fetch quest, most of which require you to kill, and then you go do the aforementioned killing. There's a lot of killing involved. Torchlight Frontiers is a top-down action RPG. You know the kind of game I'm talking about. And if you don't, you're lying. You'll click to move around, click to attack, right-click for a special attack, and use number keys and buttons for other special attacks and potions. Each character has their own special mechanic, which involves balancing out a meter using your skills. For the Forged, some of your skills build up heat, while others release it. The goal is to build up your heat and then release it in a big blast to your enemies. And I mean that pretty literally. My walking furnace basically explodes. Why I'm not dead, I have no idea, but I tend not to ask questions. From my time with the Dusk Mage and earlier tests, it's a very similar concept except for the exploding bit. That would be messy. Each class also has a Relic Weapon, which is a super strong weapon that has its own level and can only be used sporadically. Mine was a sword, however, I think you can switch it out for others at some point. I didn't get that far. I think it's cool that this exists, but I barely used it because I just kept forgetting about it. Maybe these will be cooler later, I don't know, but I just tended not to bother. As you kill enemies, they will drop the most precious item in any ARPG. Loot! Sweet precious loot. This is basically the point of any game like this. Get new and better loot to kill harder enemies to get new and better loot. Enemies also drop skill points, which is cool I guess, but it's no loot. Come to me, my multicolored beauties. Leveling and getting new skills isn't quite the same in Torchlight Frontiers as you might be used to. Instead of your character having a level per se, you actually level up something called a frontier level. See, in this game there are different frontiers that have different environments and enemies that cause different types of damage. In our example here, let's call them Frontier A and Frontier B. So while you're in Frontier A, you kill a bunch of monsters and have worked your way up to level 5. But you haven't even been to Frontier B yet, so you're only level 1 in Frontier B. So you decide to head on over to B. You'll get to keep the skills you've unlocked, but equipment is a bit different. Let's say from your time in Frontier A, you've obtained level 5 armor. Well, now you're in B, so you're level 1 again. Don't fret, your equipment will simply scale down. However, enemies in Frontier A use fire damage. Enemies in Frontier B deal poison damage. So your A armor may not actually be the best armor to use in B. You'll probably want to equip some armor you get from monsters in Frontier B that has poison resistance. Now that sounds confusing, but really, it is. This is actually one of my issues with the game, but more on that in a bit. Maps appear to be broken down into a large public area that has several sections in it, and a waypoint in the middle. Here you will see other people running around that can help you in battles, especially with some of the boss monsters that spawn sporadically in the world, which you can spot by their colored circles. Branching off of the public map are several dungeons, many of which you'll get quests for, some of which you won't, which seems like a bit of a miss. I haven't found much of a reason to go into ones that I don't have a quest for. I get just as good of loot in public areas. Oh well. As you gain skill points and frontier levels, you can head to your personal outpost, which you can decorate to your liking. I'm not into that sort of thing, but hey, it's cool that it's there. To create items for your outpost, you'll need to gather materials from the open world, which are nicely marked on your minimap. I don't know why, but I find that gathering animation adorbs. Luckily, your outpost is also where you'll place your skill shrine, as I'm going to call it, where you can unlock new abilities and passive bonuses. Getting new skills takes skill points. The shrine itself will also need to be upgraded to open up more new skills, which takes gold and skill points. Basically, you're gonna need a lot of skill points, which means killing a lot of stuff. An ARPG that requires killing a lot of stuff? What a shocker. There doesn't seem to be a skill tree per se, but it does appear that you can pick and choose what skills you want depending on your playstyle. Overall though, I like what I've played so far. It feels solid, runs well, and just plays like a decent ARPG. Getting new loot was always a celebration, and finishing a large battle felt like an accomplishment. I do have a few concerns though. I'll have to play more to see how it gets further along, but right now I don't feel the need to group up with anyone. Hopefully that changes. Also, as I previously mentioned, the extra dungeons seeming a bit pointless. I'd like to see some more quests that maybe send you into these dungeons, because right now I don't see the point. The last one I have is the idea of frontier levels. This is a major personal opinion issue, as I'm not sure anyone else will agree with me. I'm not sure why, but when I went to a new frontier and found myself lower level than I was before, with my equipment scaling back to lower stats, it almost felt like I was playing a new character, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but I felt like I was losing my progress. Like all the work I had done before had just been undone. Sure, I got to keep my skills, but my gear was basically less effective than it was before. And ARPGs are all about loot and getting stronger loot and getting better loot, and it didn't make sense. It didn't feel right to me. And that's it. I haven't played too long, but I wanted you all to see the game and hear my initial impressions. I'm still very excited to see where the game goes, and now that it's open 24/7 for alpha testers, I can finally put some time in. I may also put in some time with the original Torchlight games to give me a baseline and help bring my cred back up some, though I'm pretty sure that's a lost cause at this point. Hell, I'm not sure why anyone listens to me anymore. I mean, you should listen to me. I'm super cool and hip and with it and know a lot about video games. You've already unsubbed, haven't you? And those were my first impressions of Torchlight Frontiers. Please don't unsub. In fact, you should subscribe. I put out new videos every week. You can also follow me on social media and on Twitch for my weekly live streams. And if you really want to help the channel, you can donate to me on Patreon like these other amazing people. They don't look like alpacas.